Hi, everybody. Welcome. As you join us, if you would enter your name, job title, and agency in the chat, that would be wonderful. Hmm. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. If you would, as you join, please enter your name, job title, and agency in the chat for us. Thank you. We'll get started straight up on the hour. All right, welcome everyone. Again, as you join us, if you would enter your name, job title, and agency in the chat, that would be helpful to us. My name is Terry Bearden. I'm the project director for organizational capacity building here at the National Community Action Partnership. We appreciate you joining us today for Webinar Wednesday. The topic for today's webinar is Your Community by the Numbers. And I will be behind the scenes kind of helping out with technology and any issues that you might have. I do ask that you mute yourself when you are not raising your hand or being recognized to speak during today's session. We realize that you may have other things that come on that come across your desk during this time. So we want you to be able to do what you need to do without having background noise for everyone to hear. So thank you for that in advance. I am going to put my email address in the chat in case you have any technical issues. I do want to mention that if you lose audio, you can call in. There should be a phone number that was included in your invitation to join us today. Also, if you're going to put anything in the chat, please make sure that you select everyone in the two sections so that we can all see your questions. And with that, I'm going to lead us through the promise of community action. I'm going to ask him to forward the slide. One, we like to ground ourselves in the promise of community action, and I hope that this is something that you have printed somewhere and keep handy. It really does help us to keep ourselves grounded in why we do all the things that we do. And so the promise of community action is: community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. So thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to our host for today. We have with us Kimberly Davis. She is the Data Dissemination Specialist with the Customer Liaison and Marketing Services Office in the Data Dissemination and Training Branch at the U.S. Census Bureau. And we are recording today's session, and the recording will be made available to you within the next few days. So with that, Kimberly, please take it away.
Okay, well, thank you, Terry, and thank you for the introduction. As Terry mentioned, I'm a data dissemination specialist at the Census Bureau. I don't have anything to do with the collection or the counting of persons and houses like a lot of people think. I work on the other side. So my branch helps people access data from the Census Bureau that's used for planning and development. It's used for federal funding. So all of the data that we produce at the Census Bureau is available to the public. So everybody becomes a statistic at the Census Bureau, and so do all of the businesses, because we also produce economic data. So the branch that I'm in is also the facilitators of a product called Census Academy. Census Academy is also free. It's on the Census Bureau website, and we produce on Census Academy data gems, which are 2 to 3 minute how-to videos. We have courses on there, and we also have webinars. Webinars are about an hour. The pre-recorded webinars and recorded webinars are posted usually about a month after conducted, but you can also join the live webinars where you interact with any of the subject matter experts or data dissemination specialists like myself. So the agenda today, we kind of have a packed agenda. We're going to run through who we are at the Census Bureau, the topics that we have available. We're going to go into a little bit of detail about the geography and why it matters at the Census Bureau, and what role we play in geography. And then I'm going to go over a preview of some of the data products that we have available that might be helpful for the work that you do. And then we'll hopefully have a few minutes for some question and answers. So if you're not aware what we do at the Census Bureau, it's our mission to serve as the nation's leading provider of quality data about its people and economy. We operate under Title 13 and 26, which means that all of the data we collect, we have to ensure that personal and business
Yeah.
identities are not compromised. So everyone becomes a statistics. We don't want people to be able to find themselves in the numbers, and with the World Wide Web, that becomes more and more of a challenge for us. But that is how we operate. And we conduct a number of surveys and censuses. So because we collect data for so many other federal agencies other than the Census Bureau, we also do something where we link data between sources. So we may collect data for HUD, the housing division of the federal government, with something from the ACS. We have that ability because we have all of those administrative records for both the economic and demographic side of the house. We also have international programs where we produce statistics economically and demographically for other countries. So we have a lot going on at the Census Bureau. We do more than just collect the census every 10 years. Every 5 years, we conduct the economic census, which we're wrapping up now, and the data will be produced next year. In alignment with the economic census, we also do a census of governments, which the census of governments gives us a count of the governments and their financial records and standings and spendings. And then the big one is the decennial census, where we count the people in the houses every 10 years. But all those other years, we have a lot of surveys going on. We have about 130. And they're, as I said, not always on behalf of the Census Bureau. We do surveys that are sponsored by other federal agencies, like the current population survey we do in collaboration with the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So the one highlighted on the left, excuse me, on the right in orange is the American Community Survey. And I want to talk a little bit about that because it's the big survey. The American Community Survey started after the 2000 census, and it replaced the census long form. So if any of you are familiar with the format we used to do with a short and a long form, this replaced that because Congress decided we need data every year. We can't wait 10 years for data to make decisions. So we collect data on the ACS, which is a mandatory survey, every month in every county, and it's random sampling. We survey about 3.5 million households, and it informs on trillions of dollars that go out in federal funding. I'm sorry, is there a question? Oh, okay. I'm sorry, did someone have a question? I missed it, if you did. Okay, well, I'll push on then. So the ACS is viable and important, and probably the most resourceful data set for you because it covers 40 topics, and we release the data every year. So if a geography, any area that has 65,000 or more in population, we provide this data every year on the previous year of collection. If there's 20,000 or more in a geographic area, we produce the data every year on a select number of topics. But the real meat comes in on the 5-year data. The 5-year estimate means that we collected data over a period of 5 years, and we push it out every year. It still is published every year, but it's in a 5-year aggregation that shows trending data. The advantage to that 5-year data is that we can show really low geographic areas like neighborhood data. So you can do a real community study with that. If you're familiar with geography at the Census Bureau, we produce that at a census tract, and some of the topics are even available lower than that at block groups. The ACS, these are the subjects that are collected, the 40 topics. We categorize them by economic, demographic, housing, social, and then you can see how that compares to the decennial count that we do every 10 years, where we only ask a handful of questions about age, race, sex, Hispanic or Latino ethnicity or origin, household relationship, and occupancy characteristics like rent or own. But ACS really is the meat of the data that we collect. We make a reassessment about what's collected in this, and decisions are made at Congress every couple of years to determine, do we need to change the topics, and what do we need to know about our population? So generally the questions stay the same, but sometimes you'll see additions or removals. Like we used to ask, how many bathrooms are in your house? And the federal funding on that is for infrastructure like water and sewer, roads, what do we need for that infrastructure? But some other surveys now supply data for that kind of infrastructure. So that was removed. Another one that we ask in the ACS is about internet use. Do you have internet at your home, and is it via mobile device or a laptop? So wherever federal funding can be allocated, we ask questions. We can't ask questions unless federal funding is tied to the question, and that applies to all the surveys that we collect information for. So if you've ever been to the Census Bureau website, it's a little bit challenging. We provide a lot of information, and it's not always easy to navigate. The jargon that we use is not always the same that everybody uses in plain language or daily life. But we organize all of that in different categories, and the topics list from A to Z all of the subjects that we provide information on, and it also has definitions included. The data and map tab has information about the actual data, where there are tools, 2 pages of data product tools you can access data from. The surveys and programs tab provides information about what survey we gather that information from, and how frequently we gather the data, what geographic levels you can expect the data to be produced at. And the resource library is a little confusing one, because I think a lot of people go there for data, but it's where we have a collection of infographic and visualization dynamics. And then the global search, like many other sites, is a smart search. So it allows you to type something in and look for a topic or a geography, and it returns information. Often, if we are not the source, it'll link you to the source. And if all of that is overwhelming, confusing you, we do actually have a tool that is called the Census Survey Explorer, that you can search by any of the topics or the geographic levels to find out what surveys, what resources we gather that data from. Because often when you know what resource we gather the data from, it helps to explain the level of geography that we have it available at, and this tool does provide that. So if you want information, for example, on housing, it would then return what surveys we collect data on housing, and it gives a little information about how frequently we collect that data and what data you can expect to have returned for it. So the link is available here on the slides that I'll share with you all for you to explore this tool. It's a very helpful tool if you've never used it. And it does really explain why maybe you can't find something for a year that you think should be published. Maybe we don't publish it every year. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about geography. This seems to be one of our challenging areas at the Census Bureau because it's central to the work that we do. It provides the framework for how we gather data. All of the surveys and data that we collect are done at a geocoded address. So if you live in a rural area where you maybe get your mail through the post office box, there's a good chance you never got the survey if we asked you to participate in any of the 130 surveys that we do. And so since the post office doesn't connect a physical address with a post office box, that's when we send out the field workers and they come to your house and do the survey. That confuses a lot of people because they think that we only do that every decennial, but the staff that we have may collect data for a number of surveys, or they may work only on one survey. It kind of depends on their workload and what they choose to work. But the work that we do in geography not only helps us collect data and geocode it to the correct locations, but it's also how we disseminate data and how we report data out. So this is the census geography hierarchy chart, and it's how we organize geography at the Census Bureau. So let me go through this quickly. Up the middle here from the nation to the census blocks are what we call the redistricting geography. And these always nest within one another. They won't ever cross other boundaries. They nest and add up to the geography above it. So all the census blocks nest within a block group. Block groups nest within a census tract. Census tracts nest within a county, state, division, region, and nation. So if you add all of those up, you'll get the total of the nation. These geographies are primary geographies that we use at the Census Bureau. Census tracts are probably our #1 used geography because it's low-level geography, and it's what people consider neighborhood geography. We can only change these every 10 years when we get ready for the next census that is applied to the redistricting and the representation of representatives across the nation. So we take that count, we work with the local governments, and we make adjustments. We add tracts or subtract them, and they all nest within a county. When we do that, so we have quality data, we like to have about 4,000 people in a census tract. They sometimes go up to 8,000 or more if there's a significant growth, but generally for quality data, without suppressing the data, we like about 4,000 people in a census tract. And they range in housing units depending on if there are a lot of condominiums and apartments, or if it's more housing developments and single family housing. Then block groups have about 600 to 3,000 people in them, and those will always nest within a tract. So this up the center is the redistricting data. ACS is available down to a census tract and some block groups. Everything to the left and everything to the right, we publish data at these geographies as well. We publish it at what we call a zip code tabulation area, very similar to a zip code, but doesn't always follow those boundaries exactly because a zip code is a postal carrier route. It's not really a official geography, but generally a ZCAP follows those boundary lines. And then school districts and congressional districts, those will always nest within states. So the chart shows in color and connects to what it nests within, but school districts and congressional districts don't necessarily nest within a county. So that's why the chart looks like it does. And place level is the other thing I wanted to point out. Place level for the Census Bureau is any geography that's a city, a town, or what we call a CDP, a census designated place. It's anywhere that there is a population and an economic growth or development going on, but they're not officially a city or a town because they don't meet the five qualifying criteria like a voting board and a mayor. But if there is a population and economic growth going on, then the state demographer reports to us and we designate it as CDP, and we treat those like cities or towns. So I know that's kind of a lot of geography and information. So hopefully this kind of explains a little bit better that hierarchy. So here you can see the nation and account the state of California nests within the nation. And then within this this county in the state of California is a census tract. And then if we blow that little tract up, we can see that it's divided into a couple of block groups. And if we take this block group, we can see that those blocks make up a block group. These are not defined by any square mileage or anything. Everything on this is population driven. And so the shapes get kind of interesting sometimes because they may follow natural boundaries like roads or rivers, any natural mountains or anything. But we work with local governments to determine this. So this level, the tract level, is the low level that you'll find most data at. And it's important. It's important to understand geography because if you don't know the difference between them, you're going to get really different numbers when you pull the data. So this is just showing here. If I pull up the city of Dallas, which is a place level, I can see how many housing units are there. There's 572,000. If I pull up the county of Dallas, which doesn't necessarily align with the place, it's almost double the amount of housing units. But if I pull up the metro area of Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, you can see Dallas gets lost in the middle of that because it's so large. And so understanding that these are different geographies and how much they can vary is important, because if you're applying for some funding or doing some planning on persons with low income, or you're trying to determine housing needs of an area, there's a big difference between what may be available in Dallas versus the entire metro area. And that may impact some transportation planning as well. Okay, so for any of you that do any deep diving and developing, we do have codes for all the geography. Every geography has a unique code identifier, and states are always a 2-digit code. Counties are 3, tracts are 6, and block groups are 1, and then a block nests within that block group and is part of that identifier. But if you're doing any large extracting of data at the Census Bureau, or you're working with any APIs, you'll need to understand those geographic codes to line them up and match your data. And if anyone's interested in deep diving more into that, I'm happy to work with you and help you understand some of those FIPS codes and geographic identifiers. Okay, so now we're going to take a few minutes to walk through some of the data products that I think are important and that might be helpful for you. We have a lot of data products and a lot of tools. We're always updating them. We're always reassessing what data is available and how can people get to it and what are the user needs. We gather a lot of feedback, but I just selected 4 that I think might give you kind of a start if you're unfamiliar with Census Bureau data, and then we can kind of look at some of those. If you'd like further demonstrations, we can focus on accessing data in any of them. So the four that I thought would be most useful are the Income and Poverty Interactive Data tool and My Community Explorer, Quick Facts, and then our premier and primary data product tool, which is data.census.gov. Okay, so the Income and Poverty Interactive tool, it uses data from the Small Area Income and Poverty Estimates program. And these are single-year estimates about persons in poverty. And this data is available at state, county, and for school-age children, school district level. And that's really where it has its value, is that you can find at the school district data, the school district level data about the populations in the school age range from 5 to 17. Then you can also find just the general median household income at state and county level. So this tool is a pretty easy interactive tool. On the first page, I shared the link for this tool. So again, you'll have that in the slides, but it opens on a dashboard, and on the dashboard is a map and a chart, and it allows you on the left menu to select a type of geography. So you can select from the state, the county, or the school district. And then what you can do is select any of the poverty ratio or income subject categories. And then it just will automatically change and provide the data for anything that you select. If you decide you want to look at multiple geographies at a time, it does allow you to search for up to 100 geographies in a single search. And again, if you do that for the school-age children, it will automatically default to the school districts. But the value in that is that you can then compare those geographies to see where do you line up, in particular for your community. It shows data on an interfacing map, and then it does do a chart comparison to show from 1985 to 2000 or to 2020, the variance and the difference for the geography that you selected. This particular slide is showing just one other geography, the state of Alaska, and it's comparing it to the United States. So you can see kind of where is Alaska in alignment with the United States on poverty. The tool also allows you to focus in on multiple geographies on the chart, so you can quick compare and move around over the lines to see, where are you? Are you in the middle or bottom or at the top of poverty? And it does display on the chart. It gives you the ability to look over a time of years and the full universe of those in poverty. We determine the poverty threshold nationally. It is not identified regionally. Unfortunately, that's a bit of a bummer when cost of living is higher in some areas, but there's only one national poverty number issued. And what changes it are the number of persons in a household. Up to 8 in a household is what determines that income, but it does change every year. Okay, so in summary, this product is a helpful product for you if you want single year estimates of income or poverty. And you want it at those state, county, or school district levels, or school-age children, or anyone that's under the age of 18 that's also not always considered school age. It gets kind of 17 or 18 could or could not include those school age children. But it does show trending, and that's really important to see what's been happening in an area over the course of time. And it does give you the option to look at it in different views on the maps and the charts. Another one that we're going to kind of talk through today is My Community Explorer. This one is constantly being updated. It's one of the newer tools at the Census Bureau. It's been around maybe 3 or 4 years. But the My Community Explorer gives you the opportunity to look at a state or a county and make assessments about the dynamics of the people, about the economy, and about particular households and anyone in poverty. And it interfaces with data that we collect that comes from FEMA. So if there are wildfires or hurricanes, the data is updated based on any FEMA declaration of a disaster. And the value in understanding that is when you use this tool, you can then see when a disaster occurs, what is the likelihood of this community being able to resist, or how resilient are they? Because it brings in data about, do they have a vehicle? Or are they in poverty? How many are disabled or elderly? What economic industries may be impacted in that area? So it's a great tool. You can click on it using the interface of the map, or you can go through the steps. And we'll go through a little bit of the steps here. It's a pretty easy tool to use. It doesn't always look like that because it's got a lot on the landing page, but you start out selecting a state, and then you can select a county within the state, and the map will focus in on that county. And when you hover over the map, it supplies data for that particular geographic area. When you scroll in on the map, you can scroll in and you can see on the right that it gives you information about the tracks. So you get that lower level that nests within the county, and you can get the full scope of the social characteristics for that county. And it gives you the risk factors. So based on the risks for the area and the number of them that a community may have, we rate those 1 to 3. So you may be in a county that has 3 or more risk factors, meaning there's high poverty, there may be a high number of elderly people, and so it would be hard for them to evacuate or to deal with any disaster in an area. And you can see here some of the subjects that come up: the disability, do they have internet access? Are they below poverty, without a vehicle, and the population and the number of households. Then what you can do on this tool, this is showing you how you can zoom in, and it shows examples of the reports that you can look up and how they're ranked. So you can see what the ranking factor is for that community. And then it gives you information about why it was ranked at that level. The maps are color coded, so you can kind of see a comparison for the area surrounding it, and see which ones may be higher or lower than what you're investigating or studying. So this tool has a legend on the left, and it gives you the indicators by color about the risk factor, as well as the possible hurricane or what disaster is or could be expected in that area. It's only reported based on the FEMA once they have a disaster record number. So that's when they get uploaded in here. And then the additional information that you can tab through on this are the county economic profiles, which give you information about who's working in, what are they working in, what industry do they work in. It gives you information about the number of industries as well. And then there's also the social characteristics that we've been looking at, but there's race and ethnicity as well. So we look at what does the area look like, and it gives you information back on the 5 primary race categories, as well as Hispanic or Latino ethnicity, and anyone that reported something other than the 5 primary race categories. And then the business profiles. The business profiles give us, similar to the economic data, it gives us what is the possible impact of that area's economy when a disaster strikes, based on the number of employees in an industry and what are the industries and the largest industries in there. So in summary, this tool is valuable to help you make risk assessments, because then you can combine all of the demographic and economic characteristics into an area that you can study independently, or you can study when there is a disaster. So you can look at that and see who has been impacted, or prepare for an area if a disaster hasn't occurred. It does allow you to look at the state and the counties, and the track level on the mapping interface. And it does allow you to extract data. You can extract reports from any of the tabs and sources. You can extract that data and put it in your own interfacing, or you can link any of the data that you dig up on here. You can save that link and share that link directly. So it's a great tool, and it gives you that comparison interfacing. Okay, QuickFacts. QuickFacts is a tool that we've had around for a long time at the Census Bureau. It's gone through a couple of updates, but it is just that. QuickFacts gives you quick information on the top searched topics at the Census Bureau. So these topics can come from a variety of resources. Oh, did someone have a question? Oh, okay. So the QuickFacts, you can go ahead and put this link in if you'd like to follow along, or you can just type in a Google search, QuickFacts, one word. But the way that this one works, it's a very simple tool. You just type in your geography. The only caveat to this product is you need to have a population of 5,000 or more in the geography for it to work. We don't produce anything in QuickFacts under 5,000. So all states are in here. All counties are in here, despite the size, even if they're under 5,000. But if you're looking for a CDP or a place or a town, you need to have 5,000 in here to do that search. And when you start typing it, it auto populates anything that you type. So this example shows Lincoln County, and then it gives you the opportunity to select any of those Lincoln counties that auto populate in the drop down. And although it has 64 facts available in it, you can select a single fact to look at independently on any of the viewable platforms. It does offer a dashboard, a table, a map, and a chart, and we'll look at all of those opportunities to look at this data. This one also has shareability opportunities. So here is how it works. On the upper left-hand corner, you just type in the global search, the geography that you want, and it returns the table, and it organizes the table into 14 categories, so that there you can scroll through each of the categories by the topic areas. it allows you to search 6 geographic areas at a time. So in this example, the default is the United States, and the users added Lincoln County, Montana, Yellowstone County, Billings City, and the state of Montana. The 6 geographic areas that you search do not have to be like geographies. You can put different types of geography or all like geographies in the search. But once you make your selections, you can change the fact that it focuses on, and the table shows all of the topic facts in the full table. But where selecting a fact becomes a little more interesting is when you're using the chart view. Because when you choose the chart or the map or the dashboard, it's going to ask you, what do you want to chart or map? So if you were to select a county, it then compares all of those counties or any like geographies that you have selected in here. This one has selected the state of Montana, and it then compares the state of Montana at the top to all the other like geographies, which are the states, even though you didn't have to put those in there. The map does the same thing. Whatever geography you select, it highlights, and then it compares those like geographies. And in this example, it's selecting counties, and it compares all the counties in Montana and maps them. Hovering over any of these geographies gives you some basic information, but then it gives you the opportunity to select a fact. It's defaulted on population. This is the dashboard. Oh, excuse me. I got a little tickle in my throat. And the dashboard shows all of the views. So the dashboard shows all of the table information. It shows you what geography you have selected. It shows the map and the chart. Excuse me. And this one has selected the topic of veterans. So you'll see that highlighted at the top. But when you're in here, sometimes it's kind of confusing. Where does the data come from, and why are there ranges in the data? There's an information eye that explains each line item in here to tell you when was it collected and what resource did it come from. It gives you the opportunity to share via email or printing, or share the links. You have a clear to wipe everything out and start again. And there's what's new in FAQ is where the user guide is. So you can go there if you type something in and you don't get anything returned, or it says it's not available. This will give you some indications of why maybe the data you were looking for isn't in there. So it's a pretty easy to use tool. It's gives the most recent data from a variety of resources. And the quick facts does update when any of the data sets update. So you'll see different dates in here. So that it'll explain, where did this population estimates come for population and so on. And it also shows the date ranges if it's ACS data. It doesn't mean that this particular data set came from 2017 and 21. It was that ACS 5-year collection, and you'll see that in the eye if you click on it. So pretty useful for high level and just grabbing data and doing some comparisons on a number of topics. Again, this gets updated based on the number of sought after topics and the most popular topics that are searched at the Census Bureau. Okay, the next tool we're going to look at is data.census.gov, but I want to explain to you quickly. Let me see how much time we have. Oh, good. We publish everything in data.census.gov by data tables. And tables are important because not all the data is available in all of the table formats. So I'll share this slide with you guys, this slide deck, so that you have this for a reference. But it gives you an indication here. This is a table ID of what the characters and and numbers mean. The first digit identifies what type of table, the next two identify any subjects in the table. The next three identify topics within that. For example, if I look for age, and the next three are 65 and over. So that's a specific age. And then if there is a last character on the end, it's because you've selected a race iteration, and those will be listed there again with the 5 primary: race and Hispanic or Latino. So if you haven't used data.census.gov, it's our primary data extraction tool. It's we try to make it easy to use, but we run into some issues because we want it to be user friendly, in that the request was I want it to be like Google. I just want to type in what I want, and it gives it back to me. The challenge we have with that is that we use so many codes and numbers that we can't really read minds. So if people type in something like their zip code and they want data returned on their zip code, they may get the NAICS code, which is the North American Indicator Classifications for economic data. And instead of getting data on their zip code, they'll get data on hairdressers. So we don't always have the ability to read minds, but we do try to make it user friendly. But these tables I'm going to go through, which I think are the most useful if you're just starting to access data at the Census Bureau. And they're called the demographic profiles, the data profile tables. They all start with the DP, and we have 4 of them. The DP02 are social characteristics, 03 give economic, 04 are housing, and 05 are the basic demographic characteristics that we collected during the census. So using the DP tables, we're going to walk through how you might access some of this data. When you go to data.census.gov, you can type DP up here, and it'll just give you the data profile tables. It'll add whatever you search for in the filters. And below the filters, it gives you the opportunity to select geographies. And when you select geographies, you need to be sure to select the lowest level of geography that you want to search for data. So, for example, this one is searching for tracts. You have to enter tracts if that's what you want. You don't have the ability to go to county and then say, within the county, I want all tracts. You start at your lowest. To navigate this site, it starts opening up the files when you start putting stuff in. So we put DPN, and it gave us 8 results for data profiles. And then we selected geography, and it put geography in here, and it's giving those options. But to close these and see the table, you just click that X to close geography, and click the double chevron to scoot everything over. And then you can see what we see the start of a table over here. So then once we're in that list of tables, when we scoot it over, this example is showing that the highlight is for DP02. You then have the option to select a year. So you can go back in years and look at data, and you can look at the 5-year or the 1 year. If you were looking at tracts and you use 5-year, you're going to get data returned. But if you use tracts and use the 1 year, it'll say no data is available because it doesn't meet that threshold. But it does give you that option to go back through the years and look at any of those tables. And here, scooting that over, making this selection, you can see the type of data that's in the tables. So it's always a nesting series, and we start out with this one by household type, and any indentation is nesting within the category above it when you're reading the table. The data profiles are great tables to start with because they give a broad overview of all the subjects, and they give not only the estimate, they give the margin of error, and they also, which we can't see on this view, let me see if we can on the next one. Here we go. You get the percentage. So the estimates may not mean a lot when you look at the number of people, but when you see a percentage, that may matter, because you can see here, that 8% of the population then are civilian veterans for this particular track. And so that 465 may not matter if you don't know that population for that area. So DPs are valuable and helpful to start with that estimate margin of error percentage, and then the percentage margin of error. Margin of error is only collected at the census ACS, because we want to post to people how accurate was the data we collected. So the margin of error is a determination of, did we get good collection on it? That margin of error goes up if we didn't collect a lot of data. We struggled to get that information from people. And it goes down when we got good survey response. So it's always important to know how accurate that is. Sometimes it's the only data available to use, and the margin of error may not matter. So you can just hit the margin of error and it takes it out of your table view. There's action items across here that give you the opportunity to do a number of things like download, share, or print in data.census.gov, but you also have mapping. So it just maps on the fly by clicking on the map view there. And whatever data you're looking at, you can change any of the line items in that table right here. This one is looking at veterans with disability, and then it maps that on the map with the tracks identified and gives you your legend here. It gives you the opportunity to change classes and colors. You can change your base map. You can change your year. So all those same action items. These are also shareable. When you hit the share, it gives you the full link for either the map or the table, and you can share that, you can save it, you can recall it. It gives you a lot of opportunity to bring that back or relook at that data. So the table view action items do identify how many geography types you've selected. It doesn't mean you only have data for one geography. It just means you've only selected one type, because you do have the opportunity in this tool to compare different types of geography. You can compare your city with your state, with the nation. Any type of geographic data is available for comparison in here. And the map view does show most of the same action items with the shareability. The only difference is obviously you'll get the download extractions and the table views in the different formats where the table just gives you the shareable or to go back to the table. The notes are also listed in here that give you information about where the data came from, and if there's any missing data, it'll include those notes of why that data wasn't included. So in summary, this tool is our primary tool. Of the 4 that we looked at, it's probably the toughest data tool to use, but we have many tutorials available on it, data gems and videos, but it does grab that data and customize it on the fly. It does allow shareability and to revisit the data over years and trending data. And it provides data from not only the ACS, but whatever source it comes from. There is information for where the data was gathered, and the frequency and the last date of gather. We gather all the data at the Census Bureau, and we stamp it not with the year of publication, but with the last year of collection. So with that, we have a few minutes for questions. If anyone has any questions or concerns. And I'll let you let me know, Terry, if
I don't see anything in the chat. I think everybody was paying attention and really watching those graphics. I know I was.
okay.
Does anybody want to unmute and ask a question?
I I guess I have a question.
Okay.
I just wanted to double check, is the base data and the demographic profile different because base is tenure data, census
Oh,
data,
you know,
and the other one's
on
the ACS?
these tables. Yeah, so base tables, these are ACS tables, but base means it's a basic table or a basic information table, and the same with collapsed. Those tables are just basic ACS data, where the demographic, or I'm sorry, the data profiles give you a variety of subjects in there. So a data profile will have all the characteristics about that area, including things like the number of households, who lives in the household, who's in poverty, who's employed, what's their educational attainment. The base table is a single subject table, so it will be one of those. Does that help or answer that?
Yeah, I think like what I'm taking away is the demographic can intersect data basically. So you see a profile of like X by Y or something versus just X.
Right. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So base and subject tables go into more detail too. For example, a subject table, if you were looking at veterans, it doesn't only give you information about veterans, but it tells you about the veterans. It'll tell you things like, are they employed? Are they disabled? What's their education attainment? So it goes into very detail about a single subject, where the data profiles are at a higher level of all the subjects.
Got it. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Kim, we have a question in the chat. How would we find poverty levels at the county level by race and ethnicity?
Okay, in data.census.gov, is that by race and ethnicity? What you can do, and I'll try to do it here from a slide. So when you're in this, it gives you the opportunity in your filters to select multiple things. So I usually recommend to look at your geography first. So if you wanted to select place level like a city, but it'll show up here once you make a selection, and then you can go down into the list of topics and you can select multiple topics. So you can select race, and then you could select poverty, income and poverty. Within each of those categories are subcategories. So in here is one that says income and poverty, and when you click on it, it'll open up in the filter and it'll say poverty tables or income by household, income by individual. It starts to auto filter for you, and then it'll gray out any subjects that you cannot cross tabulate. So you won't have the option if you can't cross tabulate them. But most of them you can do a double or even sometimes 3 topics in a search and narrow that down. When you're looking at the data, most of the data does already come out in race and ethnic topics. So you can pick it, but you'll see by the titles in the tables that they'll start to give you those race and ethnic categories. And you can reach out to me if you'd like me to go through a live demonstration, or if you guys would like that on another webinar. We can do live demonstrations of some case studies. Does that help?
The person who asked does not have access to a microphone, so we're going to assume that she's just blown away.
Okay.
One last question.
Sure.
If my metro area crosses over both county and state lines, how do I know what counties or zip codes are included in that metro area? Will census.gov show me the definition and include zips for that metro area?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So the only, I'm sorry, this is probably blinding you all flashing through this. The only things that will nest within are these items. So if you're looking at a metropolitan area, it may cross, Kansas City is a great example. It crosses multiple counties, multiple states. But when you look at it as a whole, it only gives you that whole. Because they're not what we call related geographies, you can look on data.census.gov on the map view, and I don't have a picture of it, but on the map view, let me see if I what you can do on the map view is you can click on, I believe it's this tab, boundaries, and this window opens up and you can make selections in that list all the geographies, and you can add them to your map view. It doesn't change the data that you're looking at. It doesn't show what's on the map, but it does show those other boundaries on the map. And that would be a great example to go through a live tutorial for you, so that you can see that, because that's always helpful to see where does it align without reloading data every time. Does that help?
Don't see. Yes, that was helpful. All right, so we are at time. I do want to mention that we have had a preliminary conversation with Kim about actually doing a series of webinars over the next year or so. So we will examine that concept further, because we do understand how important this type of data is to all of you. So just bear in mind when watch for notifications. I've been popping it in the chat. So one more time, allow me to ask you to complete the webinar evaluation. When we post the slide deck, that will be a live link for you. This webinar recording and the slide deck will be posted at the NCAP website later this week. I'll probably get that to our communications guy in the morning. And all of the webinars that we do and recordings and resources are available at the NCAP resource library. Yes, now Kim, thank you. And one last thing, I'd like to do a quick commercial. We hope to see you all in Las Vegas in mid-February for our Management and Leadership Training Conference. You can go to communityactionpartnership.com, or this will be a live link as well to register for the session, for that conference. And with that, I will say thank you, Kim, very much. You are just a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate your expertise. And we are data-driven, outcome-driven organizations, so you're speaking our language. And I will thank all of you for joining, and please don't forget to complete the evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Kim.